All right, everyone. Remember when all the neoliberals were trying to bullseye the Bernie Sanders campaign out of the way? Like, I think, wasn't that before he announced by giving him a Me Too moment, saying, well, he didn't do enough to prevent the sexual harassment of his staffers by other staffers and shit like that. It's like, yes, you have a campaign with tens of thousands of volunteers, let alone paid staffers and managers and all this bullshit. There will never be an instance of any of them doing anything wrong. They're all supposed to be cherubic, and if they're not, it's the candidate's fault. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are literally the only human beings who have ever been held to that standard in modern times, especially by the Democrats. It simply doesn't happen because a logical look at it will say, how the hell is Bernie Sanders as a candidate who's making 2-3 stops a day, working 14-hour days, 6 days a week, how is he supposed to proactively solve a problem like one lowly staffer getting sexually harassed by one lowly field manager in one of thousands and thousands of field campaign offices? There's no way he's going to know that it even happened. Nobody's putting a piece of paper on Bernie Sanders' desk and saying, well, here's today's sexual harassment report. So then, MSNBC, which is straight up Warren Network. They like Warren and Biden. Warren more than Biden, and kind of Kamala Harris. They're the neoliberal network. Don't let them fool you with their fake progressivism bullshit, just like Elizabeth Warren's. They don't like Bernie Sanders as much because he's a white male, even if he is far left. But the thing is, he's been out far lefted by other people who are just pretending mostly, but they've managed to go out way out into left field further than him. So they've come out, and one of their anchors there was like, well, I don't know what it is, but Bernie Sanders just rubs me the wrong way. He's not pro-woman enough, was specifically what was said. He's not. Why? What the fuck has he done? I don't understand the wedge issue here. You're applying it to someone who's socialistic. Well, how is he not pro-women enough? Is it because he doesn't want to give free money to females? Is it because he only rants about this non-existent wage gap every other day instead of every day like some of the candidates do? Is it because he doesn't want full-on gun confiscation and he wants females to be able to defend themselves? I mean, it's to the point where the Democratic Party is so forsaken, is so terrible, has so many shitty candidates that Bernie Sanders is looking like one of the more sane of them. Bernie Sanders is now not that far out there in the Democratic Party, economically even. And on social issues, he's a rock-solid centrist according to Democratic standards. This should probably be an indicator that the Democratic Party has meandered off away from the average voter and away from common sense and away from any sense of dignity that it could have had. But the Democrats don't get it because half of them think that he's, I guess, a conservative now. Not pro-women enough. Why? I'm trying to find. The only reason I can think of is he doesn't have a vagina. So apparently that matters to a lot of these people. And you know that it does. There are a lot of people that do vote based fundamentally on skin color, on gender, sexual orientation. Yes, there will be people who will vote for or against Buttigieg based on the fact that he's gay. There will be people who are like really into gay rights or they're gay themselves who will vote for him just because of that. There are people who don't like gay rights or don't like gay marriage or whatever, they're more religious, that'll vote against him because of that. There are people who will vote for Biden because he's older and a white male. There are people that'll vote against him for that. There are people who will support Bernie Sanders for leftism, people that'll oppose him for it, people that won't vote for him because he's got a dick. This is just the way that politics works. People tend like seeks like, I think, more than anything. Even economic factors play a role. There are some people that won't vote for someone if there are people that didn't vote for Romney because he was so wealthy. Now, of course, it was more about the presentation of that wealth, the cringiness, the pretense of not actually being that rich. Whereas Trump goes in the opposite direction and says, yeah, I'm rich. Look, here's my golden tub, my silver toilet. Look, you see this watch? It's worth more than your home. That's what Donald Trump does. Mitt Romney did the exact opposite. There are people that voted for Obama because of the color of his skin. And there are people that voted against him because of the color of his skin. This happens all the time. And again, color of skin matters in Bernie Sanders' case. According to the Democratic Party, he's supposedly like bad and stuff because of the fact that he's white. This is just the way that the Democrats have begun to operate. They're a very hateful political movement at this point. There's was it Umbrella Man or Umbrella Guy? Some YouTuber got like doxxed and harassed the other day, and fucking they came and broke in his mailbox and stupid shit like that. You can see a little bit of political fury within the country, although it's not just here; it's really the world at large. It could be worse, but it could be a lot better. One problem we have is that politicians and the legacy media constantly fan the flames of hatred. This is what's been. It's not Trump doing it, by the way. It's not a bunch of extremist YouTubers. Donald Trump, the MAGA crowd. No, they're the ones calling for peace and dignity and saying they don't want to burn books. Really, the hate is coming from the far left. The problem is that Bernie Sanders is no longer really part of their crowd. He's not one of the cool kids like he was 4 years ago when the only person to contrast and compare with was Hillary Clinton. When Hillary Clinton is the only other person there, Bernie Sanders, yeah, he looks pretty far left and pretty trendy and I don't know, youth friendly or something like that. He's cool. He's the ice cream man. By the way, there are a shit ton of Ben and Jerry's signs here in the Netherlands. Like fucking, you wouldn't believe it. I never would have envisioned that it was the guy. I know there's a lot of weed around here, but Jesus, it's very funny. Bernie Sanders would like it. I don't know if he smokes weed. Probably does. Probably chains it down. But, I mean, not pro-woman enough. He's never, as far as I know, there has never been any indicator from Sanders that he's done anything, quote-unquote, sexist, that would piss the Democrats off. What was it, his rape poem? Because when people were pointing that out during the last election, somewhat jokingly on the Trump side, the Democrats formed ranks around him and said, well, no, it's not sexist. It's just poetry. It's actually against sexism. And if you read the long form, it is, actually. That is true. But now it's being, like, I guess, revived by, I don't know. I'm assuming this is coming from the Warren campaign. The Warrenites hate fucking Bernie Sanders because they're about tied, and they think, well, if Bernie Sanders dropped out, she would be the shoo-in because Biden wouldn't get any of his support. I think they're wrong. I think if Bernie Sanders were out today, Biden and Warren would be splitting that vote almost evenly, leaving, again, a 10-point gap with Biden in the lead. In fact, he'd be more powerful. He'd be up way closer to 50 at that point. Elizabeth Warren. Bet anything it came from her slimy-ass campaign. But the thing is, because neither of them are electable, it doesn't really matter. Now, Bernie Sanders is almost certainly not going to become the nominee. He's already peaked. He's now, sort of stagnant. He fell a few points. He's in third place, arguably. He's still technically falling. He's not capable of doing it. If he were to get into the general election, he would get curb stomped by Donald Trump. He would get absolutely decimated by him. Can you imagine him? He's almost 80 years old. He's no longer the face even of leftism within the Dem Party. Can you imagine him trying to whip up people into the sort of crowd size that he had before? It's not going to happen. It's simply not going to happen because the excitement, a lot of his most fervent fans will never get back onto the Bernie bus because he sold out. He endorsed Hillary Clinton. They see that as unforgivable. And no, they're not going to deal with the fact that Bernie Sanders, well, is better than Trump. No, they'll go full black pill accelerationism and they'll be voting for Trump just to end the world or some crazy shit at that point because they're convinced that he's Orange Hitler. I think a lot of them would rather punish the DNC at that point. If I were a Democrat, I would too. If I were a Democrat right now, I'd be like, the party's gone off the rails. The only thing that's going to help him is to lose the election. The only thing that's going to help them to reform is if there's enough stress on them to either kick the far left out or admit, hey, we've become a socialistic party, we're going to embrace it and fundamentally re-engineer our platform. One of the or the other has to happen in order for the Democrats to survive into the next paradigm. And therefore, one or the other will happen, or the Democrats will disappear. They'll become a minor movement, and one of the third parties or some other movement will rise up in their place. We could end up with the Greens or the Libertarians becoming the other party, essentially to oppose the Republicans. That would be very, very funny. By the way, if the Libertarians became the other party, it'd be the best thing for this country. We probably should just retire the Democrats. They've gotten old and boring. That's about all. Peace out.